Welcome into the A-10 basketball preview on the American Sports Network alongside our college basketball analyst, Mark Adams. I'm Monica McNutt. Mark, you ready to roll?
I'm ready. I love the A-10 top 6 conference in the country. I'm going to prove it.
Okay.
They're going to prove it.
We're all ears. Let's jump right into our preseason poll, folks. It is out, and it looks a little something like this. Dayton, Rhode Island, VCU, and Davidson are your top 4, and then we get into the contenders in the middle of the pack. Mark, do you agree with what you see so far?
Yeah, I love the top 4, and then I really like St. Bonaventure at number 5. Jalen Adams, one of the most feared guards in the country out of Olean, New York. That is a hotbed right now for college basketball under Mark Schmidt. And LaSalle, Jordan Price returns, along with a talented group of transfers. Watch out for LaSalle. Remember, Sweet 16 run just a few years ago? John Giannini has a really good team this year. Not
too far removed from that success. All right, number 1 team was Dayton. You saw it. Let's jump into them a little bit, Mark. They finished 14-4 in conference and 25-8 last season, and this young man had a great year.
Archie Miller returns. Charles Cook, who is an elite scoring talent that creates mismatches. He was first-team All-Atlantic 10, preseason All-Atlantic 10. What I like best, though, he was all-defensive team Atlantic 10. He led the Flyers in scoring over 15 points a game and shot 40% from 3. His nickname is Trey. Gee, I wonder why.
Trey. Oh, knocking down those threes. Here's some other key names, Mark. You love Scoochie Smith.
I love Scoochie Smith because of his leadership. Kendall Pollard, if he is healthy, he brings a whole physical dimension to the Dayton Flyers. Watch out for Josh Cunningham, the transfer from Bradley. I saw him when he played in the Missouri Valley Conference. He was not a good freshman. He was a great freshman. This kid is going to light up the Dayton Decibel Dungeon.
We check out some of their key matchups in the non-conference schedule, Mark. What do you see here?
I see high major. The Dayton Flyers are flying high major. They are 32-12 versus the P5 and Big East over the last 9 years. Let me say that again. 30-12. They've won 7 out of the last 8 against the ACC, 13 of 16 versus the SEC, and 11 of 15 versus the Big East. This is a high major conference with a high major number 1 team in the preseason in the Dayton Flyers.
Now, when you look at what Dayton has been able to do, they are very efficient regularly. Last year, they were 46% from the field. What has been their best addition in the offseason?
Well, in the offseason, what they've done is they've gotten better through recruiting, in particular through Josh Cunningham, the transfer. I talked about his ability to rock the Dayton Decibel Dungeon. This is one of my favorite venues in college basketball. Between the crowd and how hyped they get, along with what Josh Cunningham brings from an athletic perspective, he's a guy that can go get those dirty rebounds like Kendall Pollard could. And now there's 2 of them. That makes Dayton special in my book.
Well, another special squad, according to the preseason poll, would be URI. The Rams come in 2nd. Last year, they finished 7th in the pack, but that was without E.C. Matthews. Who's back, Mark?
Hassan Martin, the 2015-16 Atlantic 10 Defensive Player of the Year. I saw him against ODU. I loved his motor, and I loved his infectious personality, both on and off the floor. When they lost him for 6 games, they lost part of their team personality. Not to mention, they lost E.C. Matthews for the season last year as well. Hassan Martin is a big dude that can change the game with his inside play, and in particular, defensively, he can be a rim protector.
Well, we definitely know picking up that Defensive Player of the Year award last year. When you look at this squad, how much better are they with the return of Matthews?
A lot better. They were devoid of their best player last year. Listen, E.C. Matthews can go. He is a hard-to-guard guy. Mid-range game, attacks the rim. He's physically strong, and he's had another year to get better and develop a better relationship with his coach. Not that it was bad before, but now he knows the inner workings of how Danny Hurley thinks because he sat next to him during games. And I watched that at Old Dominion. This kid went to school to become a better player. He's going to be maybe the best player in the league when it's all said and done.
High praise coming from Mark Adams. We go now to the Commonwealth. Richmond, the other Rams, VCU Rams now. They had a fantastic season. In the preseason, they're picked to finish 3rd, the same place they actually finished in conference play last year.
Will Wade has the luxury of Mo Alley Cox as a cornerstone to build around this season. Jaquan Lewis and Justin Tillman also give Wade an athletic trio. Freshman guard, remember this name, De'Riante Jenkins is one of the top 60 players in the country. But let's all go back to what we see right here, and that's Mo Alley Cox. He's really, really good. But with these other guys, Justin Tillman, who could be a double-double guy, I just love the way he can run the floor. He changes the game. De'Riante Jenkins, one of the highest-ranked players to come into VCU in their history. And Jaquan Lewis, all he did was dominate the NCAA tournament as they beat Oregon State and then lost to Oklahoma.
Very close
but he
to
went
Oklahoma.
on 20 in both those games.
Indeed. Now, the Rams do not return Melvin Johnson, who they lost to graduation, who was an integral part of what they did last year. The guy that steps up or the replacement, they do it by committee? How do you see that going?
Well, I think, first of all, when you talk about VCU, it's really about their style of play and their depth. Will Wade has been able to recruit and bring in the type of talent where they can go 12 deep and they will pressure you. Havoc is alive and well in the Siegel Center. It will be rocking with some of the greatest fans in the country.
It's fun that you mentioned Havoc again, because this time last year, our friend Will Wade was probably tired of being peppered with questions about Shaka Smart and will we see the same kind of thing. We did, in a sense. We saw VCU stay true to that defensive havoc that they wreak, and then they were fantastic offensively. How would you grade Will Wade in his first year?
You know, when I think of Will Wade, I think of discipline. And the reason I say that, Will Wade runs 1 mile or more every day for over 600 consecutive days. Why? Because he wants to challenge himself to do the same thing that he challenges his team, to be disciplined every day and be productive on the court. That's a young head coach that obviously has really good set of legs, which I couldn't do, but he finds a way to get it done. He's run over 1 mile every day for 600 days.
600 days, I would have lost a Sunday, a Saturday in there. Somewhere I would have messed up. But let's keep moving with teams that have not messed up. Davidson, you got to talk about the Wildcats. Head coach Bob McKillop doing a fantastic job. And everybody that follows college basketball knows about the scoring prowess of Jack Gibbs.
Jack Gibbs just might be the best guard in America, and Bob McKillop just might be the best coach in America. There, I said it.
Yeah, you did.
Peyton Aldridge is back as well. Give McKillop these guys, and we can expect a lot of wins for the Wildcats. And the interesting thing about Jack Gibbs is that he's learned from the best. Yeah, Steph Curry. He spent his summer with Steph Curry at his camp. They talked about ways to get better, not just as a basketball player, but as a person as well. It was fascinating to talk to Bob McKillop about how Gibbs has gotten more mature and more confident because of the influence of Steph Curry.
Yes. How could you not? With Steph Curry. That's Jack Gibbs, fantastic. You guys got to make sure you check out Davidson this season. All right, we're going to keep moving. That was only the top 4, folks. There's so many more teams to come. We're going to get Mark's expertise. And Rhode Island, we talked about him. E.C. Matthews is back, and it's going to make a big difference. We had a chance to catch up with him. And, of course, Hassan. He was so kind to photobomb our interview. Welcome back. Last year, there was so much optimism and excitement around the Rhode Island Rams, and then E.C. Matthews went down with an injury early in the season. This year, though, he's back, and that excitement has returned surrounding the program. The Rams are picked 2nd in the conference, and they're ranked in the preseason polls in the country. We're pleased to welcome into the program now E.C. Matthews of Rhode Island. E.C., how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
We're fantastic on our end. Thanks for joining us. Let's jump right into the conversation. You guys, coming into the season, ranked 24th in the preseason polls nationally. How are you handling all of this?
I mean, it sounds good, but like I said, it's a lot of work that comes in with that. We feel like it's respectful, but then again, like we got to go out there and prove it. So every day we're in here and we're working hard as we can, and we're just listening to coach and taking it day by day.
Pieces of that puzzle last year was your teammate Hassan Martin, who picked up a Defensive Player of the Year award last season. How much have you enjoyed playing with him, or actually how much does his defensive prowess force you to get better offensively in practice?
What? Well, first of all, he makes everybody look bad on defense because he blocks shots, and like we get beat and somebody will shoot and he'll block it or get the rebound. So, but it makes us all better, I think. Our coach is a hard-nosed defensive coach, so we take on that personality. And with Haas being so great, I mean, we have no choice but to step our defensive game up, and you'll see that this year.
Who's that behind you, EC? Who's that in the back of the picture?
It's me.
Hey, come on into the frame so we can see you. Come on, scoot on over.
I'm here.
All right, since you're here, we might as well ask you a question. EC is back, Haas. How excited are you to have your man back in the game with you?
I'm so excited. It's been like 8 years, it feels like.
It hasn't.
Yeah, I'm real happy for him. You know, he looks like himself again, so that's good. And he finally got his explosiveness back. And he looks like E.C. Matthews from sophomore year, so I'm real excited.
Beyond the basketball piece, Haas, listening to E.C., he talked so much about becoming a better leader for your squad. Have you already seen that come into play?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think he learned a lot from just setting out last year and getting a coach's point of view of everything. And he really got a new perspective on the game. And this year, he's just putting it all together, you know. He learned a lot from being out last year. And his leadership and his vocalness so far has been great. It's really helping the young guys and helping even the older guys like myself. And it's really like, great for us.
All right, gentlemen, I love this team bonding and all, but in a game of 11, no tape, you're not going to the trainer on the blacktop. Which one of y'all is taking it?
Blacktop.
I'm giving it to EC.
Are you? Oh, that was so sweet. I love that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, E.C. Haas. Thank you for crashing. We're certainly going to keep our eyes on the Rams this season. We wish you both the best of luck.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
That was fun, Mark. Such great guys. And now we take a look at the challenges that lie ahead for the Rams. Particularly, these are the ones that stand out in the non-conference schedule.
The Cincinnati Bearcats, potentially a top 15 team when all is said and done, led by Troy Copain, matched up against possibly at times E.C. Matthews. Hassan Martin's going to have to be really good defensively, and then Providence. That's a big-time rivalry game in Rhode Island.
Indeed. Now, Mark, I will ask this. E.C. Matthews, he seems very sincere in the opportunity that he had to grow while he was dealing with his injury. But to be fair, basketball is a game of chemistry. It's a game of familiarity. Is there going to be a slight curve for these Rams squad to adjust to having their guy back?
The short answer is yes. I got a chance to talk to Dan Hurley at the A-10 Media Day, and he talked about some of the rust right now that E.C. Matthews is experiencing. But this is a guy that has high offensive IQ. He's got a down-and-dirty defensive type of style to his game. This is a guy that will bring it all. The rust will go away quickly.
I'm sure that it will. Get some good WD-40, oil it on up. They'll be good to go up in Rhode Island. All right, Josh Cunningham, Kendall Pollard, Kyle Davis, all guys that are a major part of what the Dayton Flyers do, and they all come from the same place. Stick around for that story.
Steve was having a tremendous spring in school. He had finished up, he was getting ready to finish up his finals, leave campus on Friday. He ended up meeting with our staff and his family, like all of our players do at the end of the season, as a sort of a tone setter for the off season and the upcoming goals and stuff. Want to have everybody on the same page. So we sat down as a group, as a family on a Wednesday, and really felt that after that meeting, that Steve was going to have a chance to be one of the most impactful players, not only on our team, but maybe one of the more impactful guys in college basketball with the way we were going to use him and do some things.
That was head coach Archie Miller discussing Steve McElveen, who passed tragically over the offseason due to cardiomyopathy, which is an enlarged heart. And I know, Mark, for you, you're in that Dayton area, and we both have had a chance to meet that young man. But what was that like in that community?
I grew up as a Dayton Flyer fan. I know that in our business we're not supposed to be fans. We're supposed to just enjoy every team. But bottom line is I am a Dayton Flyer fan. And when I heard the news that Steve McElveen had passed away, not because I'm a basketball fan, but because of his big personality, because of his ability to fill a room with that personality, his tremendous smile. Monica, he was the Pied Piper of Dayton, Ohio. Kids loved him, and he spent time in our community. And everybody loved him. The Dayton Decibel will never be the same again because we, as a community, lost a wonderful Pied Piper in Steve McElveen. He'd always tell Archie Miller, I got you, coach. So if it was for footwork or defend better, I got you, coach. Well, I guess now we got to say, I got you, Steve, because the Dayton Flyers now will move on. This program is under the leadership of Archie Miller in a very effective way. But what a horrible, horrible experience. But the Dayton Flyers will react in a positive way.
I suppose, Mark, if we had to find a silver lining, besides the fact that the Flyers will be galvanized behind this young man's life, it would be that he was able to put a smile on so many people's faces in such a short period of time in terms of his lifetime. So certainly we always wish the Dayton Flyers organization well, as well as the McElveen family.
Yes.
Archie Miller and those guys have a tough task ahead in terms of moving forward, but they will move forward, Mark, because I'm sure that is what Steve would want them to do. And an important part of moving forward is recruiting and being able to get your tentacles into a hotbed like Chicago or Philly or New York. And Dayton has been able to do that in Chicago. They've got 3 guys on their current roster that hail from that pipeline, and they hope that that will continue.
It's as good as anywhere in the country. Derrick Rose, who's an MVP, Jaleel Okafor. I mean, you go down the line there. I think they've had, 3 of the last 5 National Players of the Year, I believe, were from the Chicago area. So it's a really competitive environment. It's a basketball city. They take their basketball and their hoops so seriously, and they play year round.
We're from Chicago. We get a chance to represent our city, and also we know each other. So it's pretty cool to come to a school where it is more than one Chicagoan.
Chicago is the largest Dayton alumni base outside of the state of Ohio in the country. And so Dayton is a very big name in the Chicago area. It has a great reputation, academic reputation and athletic reputation. And over the years, Dayton has had a lot of players from the Chicago area, and they've had a lot of success. Kevin Dillard was a Mr. Basketball, former Mr. Basketball in the state of Illinois, which is a huge deal. And it was a very popular figure. And then we had Josh Parker on the team and Luke Fabrizius, all from the area. It's great coaching in the area, whether it be high school coaching or the summertime coaching. All 3 of those guys, both Kyle and Josh came from Morgan Park, and then Kendall came from Simeon, and they just got unbelievable during their high school seasons and during their summer and AAU times. What they brought to the table was just a level of toughness, competitiveness, and winning mentality that has elevated our entire program.
It was a challenge being at Morgan Park. You had to play, really had a tough conference playing the best of the best. Had to play Simeon, who had Jabari Parker, Kendall Pollard, Kendrick Nunn, Jalen Tate. They had a couple of good players. And then right around there, we played against Bogan, who had LaJuan Pittman, who's at UMass now. So we had a lot of competition in the Chicago area. It was just competition, no matter what school you played.
It's a real tough league to play in, the Chicago Public Schools. It's a real tough league. You can lose any night, no matter who you are. Me being on the best team for 4 years straight, we was a favorite, but we could lose to anybody any night. And it just brings a certain toughness out of you when you go play anywhere else. Publicly on the south side of Chicago, it's real tough. Morgan Park and Simeon, we both played in the Red South since we was on the south side. And the red division is like the hardest division. Is where you go against the best competition every night. It's real rough. You don't get too many fouls called, but it's fun. It teaches you how to become a tough player.
The coaches are always taking trips out there, and I know they recruited Kyle and Kendall and Josh very heavily, trying to get them to come here. But Chicago basketball there's really nothing like it in the country. It's a different level. And I think that the coaches see that, and they do a good job of bringing good players from the city in here.
All 3 of those guys played in the largest stages, so when they get to college, the adjustment period about playing in front of 13,000 people or playing on TV, there is an adjustment there is for some kids because they're used to it, and they played at the highest level. Kendall played with 5 or 6 other high Division I players on his team, Jabari being the one everyone knows about. Kyle and Josh, their team probably had 4 or 5 Division I players on their team, so they know what it's like to play with good people and play against good people and play in the spotlight. So when they got here, the spotlight didn't mean anything to them. Whether they're freshmen and going to the NCAA tournament against Ohio State or Syracuse, they've been there before and they expected to win. What those guys brought to the table from day one was a winning attitude. And no matter who we play, no matter where they play them, they expected to win.
Good stuff there from the Flyers program. Okie dokie, we are nowhere near done, Mark. We just got into the top 4. There's so much more to discuss in the A-10. Our contenders and our dark horses, they're coming up next. Welcome back. As promised, contenders and dark horses. Mark, go ahead and get the people informed.
Contender, LaSalle, led by Jordan Price as he returns, and that is huge for the Explorers. LaSalle hoarded impressive talent last season, and those guys are now ready. 4 former top 100 recruits for John Giannini in that Explorer lineup. They're going to be really, really good. St. Bonaventure, I love Jalen Adams. No, there's no relationship, but he's a Dan Patrick kind of guy for the Bonnies. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. St. Bonaventure won a share of the A-10 regular season title last year. They have 3 transfers, 2 big guys, one from Syracuse, one from Liberty, and watch out for a guy named Matt Mobley who comes in from Central Connecticut. GW, led by Tyler Kavanaugh, along with solid, sweet sophomore Jordan Rowland. They're both back. Over the final 10 games, Kavanaugh shot 48% from behind the arc as GW won the NIT championship. Patrick Steves also back as a double-figure scorer. Steves is solid and brings experience to GW. George Mason. Dave Paulson, one of my favorite coaches in America, has Mason on the right track. 5 and top 7 scores returning, including top scoring duo Otis Livingston and Marquise Moore, both at 11 points per game. When you give Paulson returning talent like that with experience, watch out for George Mason.
Now we take a look at the remainder of the standings, well, the preseason poll, I should say. St. Joe's, Massachusetts, Fordham, George Mason, Duquesne, and St. Louis round out the rest of the conference. Do you agree with this, Mark?
St. Joe's, remember this name, Charlie Brown. I'm not talking peanuts either. Fordham, which has a transfer from Eastern Kentucky, rejoins with Jeff Neubauer. Going to be really, really good. Archie and those guys at Dayton, they're looking down this list right now and saying there's some pretty good teams there.
Indeed. I mean, that's the beauty of the A-10 and why you like this conference so much. The bottom half could jump up and get the top half any day.
Absolutely. Love the A-10.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for our A-10 preview show. He's Mark Adams. I'm Monica McNutt. We will be broadcasting A-10 games here on the American Sports Network, so stick along for the ride. It's sure to be another great season in the Atlantic 10 Conference.